So Resident Evil 2 Remake is the game that got me heavily into Resident Evil as a franchise, because before that, the only games I actually played was Resident Evil 3 and 0, and that's mainly because I got 0 from a garage sale and I got 3 from my grandma because it came along with a PS2 that I got back in the day. But yeah, besides that, I never played any other ones. That's because I never really went out of my way to actually go out and buy other Resident Evil games, because growing up, I didn't really like horror games like that. But I mean, there were certain ones I did have growing up, because I had Clock Tower 3 growing up, and then of course the 2 Resident Evil games that I told you that I have literally right there because I've had them forever. But yes, besides that, I never really got into just Resident Evil, because like I did enjoy those, but I just didn't go out of my way to buy them, probably mainly because I just didn't have the money and then like other factors. But yes, Resident Evil 2 Remake is the one that got me heavily into this series, because it was a fun game. I was actually expecting this to be like one of the like super scary, because like I don't play horror games. Like the last horror game I played was Alien Isolation, and like I stopped playing it because I was scared of the xenomorph, because I was like, dog, I was running away for my life. But yes, that was like one of the ones I played before I played Resident Evil 2 Remake, along with some other ones that I did play back in the day. But I digress. This is the one that just got me heavily into Resident Evil, and it was like actually a really great start, because from the gameplay, from the story, from the atmosphere, from the music, from the way the RPD looked, everything there just made me go like, wow, this is amazing. I want to learn more about this franchise. And just know I got deep into the franchise. I watched so many different YouTube videos, read so many different articles, looked stuff up on like the fandom wiki, like the Resident Evil wiki, all this different stuff, because I was just searching stuff up, trying to learn things about these characters. Of course, I went out there and bought all the games that I could buy, not the super expensive ones, just the ones that weren't too overpriced. I went and bought them that I could replay them. I did eventually, of course, since I already had Resident Evil 3 and 0, I did replay those, because since I owned them, I wanted to play them, and learning more about all these characters, I just got super invested into the game, because when this came out in 2019, I bought it months later when it went on sale. I played it and it was one of the best experience ever, because like I got super deep in there. I was over here, this is how you know I was playing it so much that I was like dreaming about playing this game, because I remember just waking up and like imagining that there was a liquor chilling in my room. That's how I got deep. Like when I say I got deep into the lore and playing this game, I did though. But yes, let's talk about this game. If you've never played Resident Evil 2 Remake, go do yourself a favor right now and go play it. It's always on sale on the PlayStation Store, or you can go to like one of your local game shops and like probably find it, because it's probably there for cheap, because the game is not that expensive. But yes, go do that, but we're about to talk about this game. I'm gonna talk about the story, things I love about this game, maybe a little critique, because there's only a little bit of critique for this game, because there's not really much. But let's talk about Resident Evil 2 Remake. Now, when it comes to this game, the one thing I really love about this game is the replayability, because after you beat this game the first time with Leon and Claire both playthroughs, you can replay this so many different times, because it's always a different experience. Because when it comes to the zombies in the RPD, you'll know where everything's at, but at the same time, you might not take out a certain zombie and it'll surprise you, or you like think you killed a zombie and out of nowhere it gets you, because that's happened a lot of different times where I have a random jump scare. Because even to this day, I'll go months from not playing this game, and then I'll go back and I'll play it, and next thing you know, a random zombie will scare the shit out of me, just because it's not really like I'm scared. It's one of those just like, whoa, I was not expecting you to be there, I forgot about you type of scare. Because the game's not scary at all. Like the zombies and all that, you have guns, you can kill them. It's one of those like little jump scares and just like little shock surprises, because you're just like, oh my gosh, where did you come from? Except for Mr. X sometimes when you I'll say Mr. X, the first few times you play this, he will scare you, but once you learn like where he goes, you'll never be scared of Mr. X at all though. But I do think each scenario is really fun, but I honestly enjoy Claire's a little bit more. I will say that, because one, Claire's is easier, because you get the grenade launcher and you can just pack up zombies like that, because all you gotta do is hit them, and you can like kill 2 at a time with that, especially if they're lined up at the right time with the grenade launcher. And the grenade launcher can basically cheese G3 Birkin, I think it is, because that's the one you can hit them with the acid rounds, and you can just cheese them that whole time with that. So that's kind of why I like her playthrough a little bit better. I like her A run, but I might like her B run a little bit better, because the B run is shorter and you start off in a different location, and you can get a lot of different stuff at that point, because you can get stuff early. Even though I barely use her machine gun, I will say that I barely do. But yeah, when it comes to Leon's playthrough, I do enjoy it, but at the same time, it is a struggle at times, because I don't play it as much as I play Claire. So like whenever I go back and replay Leon's campaign, I always forget about certain things and I mess up with certain things. I will say that though. But the game just really draws you in with how good the story is and how good the voice acting is. Because if you know the original Resident Evil 2, you know how good the story already was, but this one makes it add a little bit more to I'm not gonna say it's better than the original one. I think they're both about the same when it comes to the story. They're both really, really good. But this one adds this little, you know, je ne sais quoi, you could say, because the voice acting is like way better than the original, because one, you know, scripts and stuff is way better than what it was back in the day. But the voice acting is so good, especially Marvin. Like, Marvin's scenes in here are so good. You can feel the emotions that he's expressing, like when he's saying stuff to Leon and Claire. When he's looking at Leon and he's telling him, do not fall for the same thing that I did. When he talks about like people in uniforms, because if you know, we know eventually what happens to him. We knew even the original how he got bit, and you know how this one connects to Resident Evil 3 Remake 2, and we see how he got bit. But yes, you just see the emotional impact between him, and you also just see how Leon is feeling throughout this whole thing, how he sees all these different people that he has to give up on as he's going through things, either Marvin, or you get the scene with Kendo, which is so good. Like the scene with Kendo is so good, but at the same time it's so sad because we see what he's going through, because one, his daughter got turned into a zombie, and you see he's struggling with that, and eventually we see that he does take himself out and take her out. That's essentially what it kind of gives off what happens though. And then also Leon and Ada's chemistry is so good, and I mean, oh, it's so good, along with Claire and Sherry's chemistry, of course, is amazing, because Claire gives off that she's a big sister to Sherry. And also we have Sherry's mom, who is like very cold-hearted and only cares about her work, does not care about her daughter at all. Claire is the one that has to push her to even think about like wanting to save her daughter, because she's so concerned about G and all this other blah blah blah, all that mumbo jumbo, because she's still so concerned about, even though Williams are going around the city on a rampage because, you know, he injected himself with the G virus. So, and you have all things like that that just shows off like how the story is when it comes to just like the emotions of the story though. But yeah, let's actually talk about the story though, even though majority of people already know about this story. But for the people that don't know about the story, let's talk about what Resident Evil 2 Remake is about. So Resident Evil 2 Remake follows two characters. You have Leon S. Kennedy, who is a rookie cop who's about to come to Raccoon City for his first day, and then you have Claire Redfield, who is looking for her brother that works for the RPD in the STARS unit. And just know that these characters are going to eventually meet up at the beginning, and then eventually they get split up, and they each go through their own separate scenario as they discover the truths of what happened to this city, because they're going to meet different characters. They're going to meet Marvin, who is a injured cop that is in the RPD, and they're going to meet him, and he's going to help them out as they traverse the RPD. And also you're going to have Claire that runs into Sherry, who is the daughter of William Birkin, who is the one that started all this. And Claire's going to kind of take like a big sister role to her. And you'll have Leon, who meets this woman called Ada Wong. And essentially, just know she's going to say that she's part of the FBI, but she's really working for a secret organization, we could say. And like, she just wants the G virus to get the money that she needs, because she needs to get paid, because she's doing this for a certain job. But as they go through the RPD, they're going to eventually go to the sewers. And as they go through the sewers, they're going to eventually learn that Umbrella is the ones that started all this, because they're going to get to their lab. And once they get to the lab, they're going to like uncover a lot of different truths about what's actually happened to the city, and how Umbrella was the one that started all this and turned the city the way it was. Yes, there's way more to the story, but that's essentially what it is. You have two characters that come to the city that is full of zombies and had an outbreak. Eventually they're going to discover the truth of like what actually happened, and that is that a big corporation basically is the ones that screwed up and caused all this mess to happen, because they want to mess with viruses and all this other mess. But yeah, that's essentially everything that happens in here. Yes, there is way more, I will say, so much more I skimmed over, because there's little characters and other details I did not talk about. But if you play this game, then you know how this goes. But let's talk about some other stuff and some things I really enjoy about this game, or some things that I'm just like, that was really good. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is Mr. X. Now, Mr. X is so good in this game, because one, he's a pursuer enemy, but he's a scary pursuer enemy, because one, he has his own music, and he will sometimes just come out of nowhere. Yes, there are scripted stuff that he comes at sometimes, because there's a lot of scripted stuff, but at other times, if you're dilly-dallying around the RPD, you will get caught. Mr. X is very terrifying when you first play this game. Your first couple playthroughs of this, before you learn like what you need to do and like how you can get through the RPD the first time fast and the second time fast, even on the A and B scenario, just know he will scare you. The one thing I still have never done in this game is like the one where he breaks through the wall, and it's supposed to be like a reference to the original one, but like somehow I've never got that scene to happen. I don't know how, I don't know what I need to do. Maybe it's because I'm never in the RPD for that long, and I always try and get out of there because I don't want to deal with him, because I don't feel like getting punched, I don't feel like getting thrown down, I don't feel like getting killed. But he is very terrifying though, but he also is fun to fuck with too, because like, especially like when you know everything you do, you could just fuck with him, and it's kind of funny though. But yes, Mr. X was phenomenal though, like so damn good. One of the standouts of this game was him. Especially when you first run into him, you're just like, oh fuck, what do I do? Especially all the scripted stuff too, because there's a lot of scripted stuff where he just comes through like that. Like when you're grabbing that little, I think it's like the crank or whatever, and like he comes through the door. If you're not expecting that, the first time that happens, that will scare the shit out of you. And he really will scare the shit out of you, because he appears in a lot of locations that just is like, why? Especially the hallways that have the lickers. That is like one of the worst things ever when he appears there, because that can just ruin a run so fast, especially if you're trying to do a hardcore run. Since we're talking about hardcore, let's talk about hardcore. Now when it comes to this game, you know it has easy, normal, and hardcore. Hardcore is like the hardest mode, and just know on hardcore, it is something you can get through, but sometimes it will be very irritating. There's a lot of runs that were irritating. Just know when I first try to do my S plus runs, just know there's a lot of irritating little things that can happen in these runs when it comes to hardcore, from either getting killed by a random enemy, saving at the wrong point, or in my situation when I was trying to do my Claire S plus run. And one of the things that kept happening to me when I was trying to do my hardcore run is that I kept getting caught in the orphanage by irons, because I would mess up, because I would forget what to do. I'm like, where am I supposed to go again? So just know that's something that happens every once in a while. But like when I was first trying to do this run, that was the thing that stopped me, and I was so goddamn mad. But yeah, speaking of the orphanage, let's talk about the orphanage, because the orphanage is actually really creepy, especially once you learn what actually happened to the kids there. And then of course when you see in the police chief Irons, you see him, and you see like how he loves taxidermy and all that stuff, and you see like his office. But then when you get basically to the orphanage, you see what he's doing with the mayor's daughter. So, and just know that whole scene right there is very scary when he's chasing after Sherry, especially the first few times you're playing this and you're trying to hide and you're trying to figure out like, where exactly do I hide? Just know it is just so terrifying in that moment. And especially like as he's chasing you, because the funny thing is, if you slow down, just know he will start booking it. And I was like there's no goddamn way his ass is catching me, unless he's very athletic somehow. And I'm like, and I don't believe that, because he don't look like he's athletic at all. He don't look like no defensive lineman. I was like, nah. So yeah, there's little funny moments like that where he can almost catch you. But yeah, that scene is terrifying. But learning about what actually happened in that orphanage is kind of heartbreaking. Just learning like what exactly happened to the kids and like what they did to them was very sad though. So one of the things I love about this game is the flow of the story, especially some of the elements. One of the things I like is how you start in the RPD, you go down to the area where you fight G1, then you come back to the RPD, you go through all that again, Mr. X is chasing you, just to go to the sewers. And then once you're in the sewers, you can come back to the RPD and collect all the stuff that you left after, you know, Mr. X is not there no more. You can collect all these different things, that items that you left, along with maybe running away from any enemies you left alive. That's the one thing I really like, is how you can go to the RPD 3 different times. Because like in the original, you know, once you're, you know, to the sewers and you're going to the lab, you ain't never going back to the RPD. Where in this one, they give you a chance to go back there and you can collect a whole bunch of extra goodies, like either getting a new weapon, getting some extra storage, getting another weapon pouch, I should say, picking up any ammo that you left behind, or any things that you couldn't get before, because maybe you might have not had the key at that point, or you didn't want to waste time and go get stuff, especially like with Mr. X roaming around the RPD. That's why that second run, you kind of got to get out of there, unless, you know, you're on the B scenario where you kind of want to always get out of there fast, that you're not dealing with Mr. X. I'll say one of the hardest things about this game is if you're trying to collect stuff and you have Mr. X around you. That's why the A scenario is easier when it comes to like the first part, because you can collect so much stuff, where in the B scenario, Mr. X shows up early and he can actually ruin some stuff. But if you actually know how to plan out things, you can go to the STARS office before, you know, you have to deal with Mr. X, and you can take care of a lot of different random stuff. And then by the time you're dealing with Mr. X, you know, you're just getting that last medallion, and then you can throw a flash grenade or something at him, and you can, you know, get out that door, and you don't have to deal with him. But if you don't do that, just know you're going to be dealing with him. And the worst thing to do in this game is to deal with Mr. X, especially when it's by lickers. Now let's talk about lickers, because lickers in this game are terrifying. They look really, really good. They look the best that lickers have ever looked, but they are terrifying, especially when you randomly run and you didn't know a licker was there, because you didn't know, because, you know, them lickers can appear in a lot of different areas throughout the RPD, and sometimes it can suck because them lickers will come flying at you. I remember I had a licker that was like by the weapons area, the armory, I guess you'd say, whatever that area was called. Like, it was by there, and I was going up the stairs, and out of nowhere a licker came flying trying to get me, and I was like, how did this happen? But yes, the lickers are terrifying, but once you learn how to get away from them, because all you gotta do is just walk and then hopefully not touch them, because I've had a few times where somehow I've accidentally touched them. I'm like, how? I was nowhere near you. But yeah, the lickers do look really, really good in this game. Now, one of the things I love about the liquors is in the B scenario, we actually get the liquor in the liquor hallway because it actually appears where it's at in the original, and then you can get the liquor to do the one tongue thing. And the funny thing about it is, if you know in the original, you can run through that hallway and get past that liquor, but if you run this time, that liquor will follow you all the way to the next door. So technically you should not be running because that liquor can follow you, because if it heals you, it will keep creeping away because there's no door right there no more, because it's just straight up an opening. So that's one of the things I just thought that was really cool that they did that. It just shows like, yeah, this is still a liquor hallway, so you should be walking and not running. You're not about to get past it like you could in the original. Another thing I do enjoy about this game are the puzzles. I think for the most part, they're not really no hard puzzles. Yes, there are little irritating ones. I will say if you forget in the lab that one when you're like mixing the solutions to like get the certain amount of like the green little like whatever that is solution, just know that one can get very irritating if you mess it up. Trust me, I've had a few times where I messed it up and I was mad, but once you learn like the stuff of that one's super easy, along with just like memorizing, because that's mainly what you need to do in this game when you're like replaying it. You just need to memorize everything, that way you can have a fast run, and that's how you can get the rocket launcher and Gatling gun, which is kind of super, they're kind of easy to get. All you gotta do is get an S+ rank on the A run of Claire and Leon's. It's super easy compared to the B run. The B run you can get it, but at the same time it's easier if you just do the A run because you get more time if you want to get those though. But yeah, I want to talk about a little bit critique that I do have about these games, and the things I want to talk about first is the B run. Now, the B run is not really a real B run, mainly because, yes, it is shorter, and you do start off at a different position of the RPD, and Mr. X does show up early. Yes, there are a few rooms where there's, like, no zombies. Like, zombies would usually be, like, in the A run, like in that one room where that one fat police officer's at the beginning of the game, and, like, it busts out of that room. But, yeah, you have that one. That is actually opened up now. And also, you are able to get certain weapons early on, so that's one of the things that is different. You can get certain weapons early on. Some items are remixed and moved around, only a few different ones. It's not really like the key items or anything. It's just little things like that. But yeah, for the most part, it's not really that much difference besides like a few little things. And also, you don't meet Marvin because he's already dead when you get there, and you have zombies in the lobby, so it's not really nothing too crazy. Puzzles are switched too, but at the same time, it's not really a real B run because nothing that happens in that is that vastly different than the A run, because one, you're gonna fight the same bosses in the same type of areas. The only boss that is new is the final boss of the game, which is when Birkin pulls up on the train, which is like the final boss. So there's not really that much difference between the A and B, where like in the original Resident Evil 2 you had differences between those that make them stand out to show that they were different scenarios. So that is one of the critiques I will have, but most people do have, is just like that the A and B scenario aren't that different. One of the things I have heard is that the creators originally only wanted to have just the Claire and Leon run, and that makes me wonder like what exactly would the game's been if it didn't have the B scenarios, because even with the two scenarios that you get of Leon and Claire, there's still a lot of things there that are just, you know, not out of whack, and like they don't fit in with the story. And some of the things that you see the inconsistency of the story is how basically Leon and Claire, they fight all the same bosses besides their final two, with Leon fighting Mr. X and then Claire fighting final form Birkin, or at least like I think it's G3 Birkin or whatever it is. I forgot exactly, or G4, whatever, I digress. But yes, besides those two fights, they fight the same bosses in the same areas, nothing different at all. And like it just sucks. And then also you have Annette. Like when it comes to Annette, it's like Leon Caesar die, Claire Caesar die, and it's just like so many inconsistencies when it comes to them, like when it comes to some of those. So like that makes me wonder like what exactly would the game been if it just would have been a Leon playthrough and a Claire playthrough and not a B scenario, because the B scenarios, they're just shorter, but they're essentially the same thing. Yes, I will say they are a little harder because Mr. X shows up before, but at the same time it's not really a real B scenario. It's just the same story, just shorter, not really nothing extra new besides like the final boss and maybe some stuff getting moved around, and you're able to get certain items early. But I will say the B scenario is fun. I can't lie, I do enjoy playing the B scenario a little bit more than the A scenario, mainly because I can cut through some of that fluff that does happen, and you can just move through the game, and you can move through the game way faster than you could in the A run though. So one thing I do wish they would have included in this game is that Claire and Leon would have talked more than what they did in this game, because in the original you had multiple different times either they met up and saw each other in the RPD, or they were communicating like as stuff happened through the radio. Because in this one they only really meet at the beginning, the end, the part where the helicopter blows up, and then of course you have little notes that you see in the B scenario. One is in the STARS office, another one's by the tram, and it's like literally at the bottom, and you just find a letter, and it's either from Claire or Leon just telling you about like certain things that are happening. And yeah, you have the one where they talk at the very end, again on the computer before like eventually they meet each other and they meet up. But yeah, I just wish we had some of that communication that was kind of in the original, because I feel like that would have been amazing to have in here. Because like, imagine them meeting each other in the RPD. That would have been pretty interesting and pretty cool just to see the scenes they would say, especially seeing like what all they have experienced, and they could talk about like, yo, what they've been doing, and like they could have talked about Mr. X or something, just like little things like that. Or they could have just been talking through the radio, like how you have that scene where like Marvin's talking to them through the radio. So like they could have done that with Leon and Claire. They each could have had a radio at some point or found it, or maybe they would have took it from Marvin and that's how they communicate to each other throughout the RPD. I feel like that would have been something that would have been really cool to see if they would have done that. Now, one of the things I wish they would have done, because if you see the concept art, is that there was a concept art that was like a zombie that was mutated, like mixture between like a zombie about to turn to a licker and a regular zombie. I wish they would have kept that in here, because you do kind of have something like that in Resident Evil Outbreak. I think it's File 2, and it's like at the hospital or something like that, or it's the hotel. I don't remember which scenario it is, but I digress. But yeah, you do have that in that game, and I wish they would have put it in this one, because I feel like that would have been something that would have been cool to have in this game, to see like a zombie that's mutating slowly into a licker, and we just could have just had that hybrid. It would have been a very interesting enemy just to deal with throughout the game. I kind of wish they would have added that though. But yeah, that's the only critique I really have about this game, but it's not really that bad, because I mean, majority of people that played this game, that's like what they had the critique is just the B scenario, the way that it was handled, because it kind of should have actually been a real B scenario. But it is sucks that we didn't get it, but at the same time I enjoy the game that we got, because it's so goddamn good. Like I said, the voice acting is good, the gameplay is good, the story is good, the way the game looks is so good, the atmosphere is good, the music is good. And also the one thing I do love is that you could also get the OG music, and that's the thing I really love too, is like you can just turn the OG music on and you can listen to that. Also, you know, in the menu you can change like the reticle or whatever it is to, like, I think you can change the blue, green, red and all that. That way when you're shooting you can have whatever color you want though. But yes, I digress. But yes, the music is so good. The new music is really good, but it just sucks that at certain points, like the save room, it just disappears and you never hear it again. That's why you got to just turn on, you know, the OG sounds. That way you can have all this music that's playing throughout the whole game at multiple different times though. But yeah, if y'all played Resident Evil 2 Remake, just let me know how y'all feel about it. If that's also the game that got you into Resident Evil, like how it got me heavily into Resident Evil, because before that, like I said, I only played those two games over there. And then also, I didn't mention this earlier, it was like I've seen the movies. That was about all I had for Resident Evil. I did not know anything else besides those two games and the movies. But then this game actually got me heavily into Resident Evil, and now it's one of my favorite franchises, and I love all the games. I own almost every single game. There's some games I don't own that I might get eventually in the future, but we'll see though. But for the most part, I own everything though. But yes, it's an amazing game. I'm happy I played this, because I can't lie, it took me a while to play this when I first got this, because I wanted to learn about the lore and everything first before playing, and then I played it, and then I played it way too much. Like, dog, I still play this way too goddamn much. I'll stop playing this for months, and then out of nowhere I'll randomly be like, yeah, I want to play this game, and then I'll just sit down and play it, because one, it's a quick game that you can get through, and it's a fun game though. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 Remake, phenomenal game. I love this game. Just know next time we're going to be talking about Resident Evil 3 Remake, because like I told y'all earlier, I played Resident Evil 3 original growing up, but I know some of y'all might want to hear my opinion about how I feel about that remake though. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe and all that, and I'll see you guys next time though. Bye.